Hey, everybody, welcome back to Black Lotus Live, where we talk about all things strange and unusual. And today we aren't going to talk necessarily about anything strange or unusual. Uh, I'm really ticked off about something, and that's that the New York Times just recently published a leaked part of the document or the report that the government is supposed to be releasing. And whether or not that leak is true or not, nobody really knows. But we have to take it for its face value and consider that it is real. And my problem with this is that it's not telling anybody anything that we don't already know. I mean, there's no definitive proof that they've been working with aliens, no definitive proof that they've recovered crashed wreckage of UFOs, nothing. So basically,
nothing we want to hear.
Yeah, and nothing we want to hear. And so basically, they're just saying, "Hey, we're not confirming or denying the existence of aliens, but we have no definitive proof." All right, well. Isn't that what they've been telling us for God knows how long?
Yeah. My interpretation is I do think it's okay. If the report is correct, the New York Times, I do think they bungled it. I think they're not handling it well. But my personality is always I try to look at the positive of things because I want to move forward. I want to move past the issue. So if I had to say any positives about this report is that at least it's moving the subject forward a tiny little bit. And at least it's not saying that it's definitively not non-humans. It's saying they can't, it's leaving it open. And I think the fact that it's in the news, I think the cat's out of the bag as far as UFOs. I think we're going to continue to get more information. You can't go backwards anymore. So those are I try to look at some positives for that report. But I do think
the government is saying that, we don't know what they are. They could be from China or Russia, which blows my mind because we've always considered ourselves, or the U.S., we've always considered ourselves the leader in technology, the world's technology. And yet these things go at supersonic speed, seemingly to defy gravity. And now they're saying, oh, it's Russia, it's China. Jack Connor is with us from Cosic Road here on YouTube. Definitely check out his channel. I think you're really going to enjoy it. Got a link in the description. But Jack, you used the term recently, Project Blue Booked, that we're all getting blue booked. And I couldn't agree with you more, because that's exactly what they're doing. Project Blue Book was really meant to debunk the whole UFO thing. And so they use situations like swamp gas and that kind of stuff. And, that's exactly what they're doing now, only instead of swamp gas, they're using Russia and China. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And, this is really interesting because Lou Elizondo has been on the news the last couple of days. He's been on CNN, he's been on Fox, and he's been actively addressing this. He has a new program and a new group that he's with called Skyfort, evidently. And I don't know if y'all have heard of this. I'm really curious what this is. Is this the new TTSA? I don't know. But they have released this document from, I think, the 1940s or 50s. It's a long document, and they are detailing these sightings of Tic Tac-like objects from the 1940s and 50s on. And it's a long document. And you can go, I've downloaded it, I've started reading it. It's just like 150 pages long. But the point is, any explanation for these things has to account for seeing very similar objects since the 1940s and 50s on continuously. So for them to blame China and Russia for this is beyond ridiculous.
It really is.
I actually looked up the original, or I don't know if it's the original, but one of the original press conferences that the military gave in 1952 with Major General Sanford, when he said there were many sightings that they had identified. And you've probably heard it, that it's a pretty famous press conference when he says, that we have seen many fairly incredible things from credible observers. Does that ring a bell?
Yeah.
Anyway, so but during that press conference, he said that there were a lot of unidentified objects that they had not been able to give a mundane explanation for. And that is essentially what they're coming out with now with this new leaked information from the UAP Task Force report. So we haven't progressed at all since the early 1950s on this issue. That's ridiculous. For them to expect us to take that is just insulting.
Well, yeah, and I think one of the most ridiculous things here is that if they've known about these craft for so many years, why the sudden interest in the defense? Why are we just now considering it a threat?
That's a good point. Well, you would think that even if Roswell is what we think it really is, that would be the point where they would have started worrying about defending.
Yeah. Michael, what's your take on all this?
We've seen a lot in the past couple of weeks, especially with the ramping up of the media coverage with this, including Lou Elizondo, as mentioned here, Jeremy Corbell, you name it. There are a handful of these players that are out there. I think that it is very curious that we're seeing a lot of this right now, but to me, there's something imminent. What that could be is really up to discussion, whether it's some sort of soft disclosure or it's a revelation of high technology. I'm going to tell you this much right now. I mean, I think a lot of people have in their minds that at least within the 180 days, one of the most popular things being covered right now in this field by the general media. The issue here is that people think that means extraterrestrial revelation, and it doesn't necessarily mean that at all. For our governments to say, what we're seeing now is another country, how do they know that? I mean, are they talking to the high military over there and they're understanding that they have certain technology? And why would they be saying this so admittedly when obviously I think some of this technology would be envied, especially for weaponization? It's very strange. It feels like a script. I almost feel like I'm watching a movie in a certain respect. I understand the narrative is there, certainly, but there is something more in the way of organization and the dissemination of what gets out there. And again, we're seeing a lot of these shadow promises or shadow documents and videos wherein we're aware of its existence. We see that it's there, but it reveals nothing new to us. And for you guys to bring it back all the way to, Roswell in the 1950s and so forth, it's often been said that, we're not going to find one day of disclosure. It began back in those times. And all of this that has been ramping up through the years is this disclosure. And, eventually we'll come to some sort of spearhead.
Right. I've been saying all along that I haven't been holding my breath for this disclosure thing. And I think what's coming to fruition is exactly what I thought was going to happen. They're just going to tell us a whole lot of nothing because, you can't tell the military complex what to do. You just can't. I don't care who you are. You're not going to be able to do it. If they don't want to release certain information because of government secrecy or national security, they're not going to do it, But, I've heard a lot of people saying that, well, they're going to release this information anyway because the public is going to demand it. And I don't think the government really gives a good goddamn what we demand, I mean, but from here on, what are we going to do? I mean, are we just going to whistle past this cemetery and just pretend that, the government says they're not aliens, so we'll just leave it at that?
I think this is really going to require people to push back and be actively involved with the disclosure. Like a lot of people have to, email their senators or people in Congress or just keep putting pressure for the news to come out. Now, the good thing is that this is a sexy topic. It's a fun, interesting topic. So I think people are more likely to get involved with this issue as opposed to there's other issues like public health. I mean, some people care about that, but perhaps they don't care enough to actually get involved. But I think we can still save this because it's in the conversation. It's on the news. People are thinking about it, but we are going to have to get involved as individuals.
Do you think that people are going to stay involved after this report comes out?
I don't know, but I hope so. I think so. Yes, I think so because it's such an interesting topic that I think people will be interested in it. But I don't know. I hope that's what happens.
Well, it's an interesting topic, and it's being constantly covered in its development now. So one of the things that this is doing, if nothing else, and you sort of alluded to this, if not said it directly, Wild Trees, is that it's raising the awareness about this particular field and the phenomenon. If there is some validity in the way of a collective consciousness or a collective really focusing in on a specific topic or subject wherein this actually raises the vibration, we'll go off in a little bit of the spirituality here. There could be some very large and far-reaching implications in respect to how far this continues on after 180 days. To me, this is just an open door for the majority of people who are not familiar with this subject, and it's a very easy and gentle letting in of certain knowledge. I mean, we'll all sit here and we've seen plenty of videos. We have, either experiences or research in the field. This whole thing here is really just, I think, something for the public to, again, sort of soften them up. So, I mean, the question really does remain, what comes after, perhaps there's this hump of popularity. What comes after that? I don't see it waning as much as some people think it will.
So speaking of going forward into the future, how do you think that if the government does reveal something, Obama was recently quoted as saying that he saw new religions popping up if they admitted to aliens. Do you guys believe that would happen? And what really would happen to society and the religions of the world? How would they react to this, do you think?
Well, the Vatican already
I'm sorry, Kim?
I was just saying the Vatican's known for a long time about these. I mean, that's not even a secret. I mean, why else would they have a huge telescope? They're not waiting for the second coming with it,
Yes.
So yeah, this is not a new story. This is, what they're doing is they're giving themselves time to bleach out what they don't want us to know. And for the most part, you got over 40 million people that already know and have had experiences. That probably outweighs what the number that is trying to hide it is.
Well, didn't the Pope come out ahead of this in like 2007 and say in a big public address that if aliens were discovered, it wouldn't be inconsistent with the Christian religion? I think it was 2007, somewhere around there. So he knew something was coming. That's my belief.
He couldn't deny it because in the Bible you've got it spoke of over 100 times. Be it beings from other planets, or we would be stupid to think that we were the only ones. So for this to be tried to be swept under the rug and ignored is really dumb.
Yeah, a while back we had Paul Anthony Wallace on, who has written the books. I can't remember the first one, but the second one is called Scars of Eden. And it's all about that. It's all about how aliens are mentioned in the Bible repeatedly, Yeah. And so they could be the purpose of us in the beginning. I mean, they possibly created us. But Michael, where are you at on this?
Bring me back a little bit because we started getting into topics. What was the original question on this one?
How do you think that the world is going to respond if it's ever revealed?
The religions specifically, I think, was the question.
So will new religions pop up out of some sort of extraterrestrial revelation? I don't think so if presented the correct way. If they're not portrayed as something to worship, I think people will perhaps approach this in a more intellectual and perhaps scientific way. I mean, that's my hoping. We're very emotional beings, of course, and reactionary. So maybe initially what you're going to see more of is fear, just because, it's the fear of the unknown. It's something different. We're going to have to transition. Human beings, by and large, don't particularly care so much for change, I think, in way of preference, but we are adaptable. So I don't think that this is going to be something earth-shattering in the way of a negative sense where we're going to have more falsities pop up around it. I would hope, again, in the way that it is approached, we'll have validity in that particular behavior itself. We won't have to really question too much more about, the basic concepts of what we're being presented with.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I have to disagree on the religion part. I think it will get new religions. I mean, just the idea of it before, what was the cult that used to think that they were coming, the spaceships were coming together?
Heaven's Gate.
Heaven's Gate.
Yeah. I think more of that would end up happening.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. And the reason being is because of the human condition. I mean, we feel the need as a whole to worship something bigger than us. And if we see these aliens coming out and they seem to be bigger than us or more advanced than us, I mean, I can see people going, oh, yeah, well, that must be the end all, There
is I think that in the short term, religions will adjust and they'll, like the Pope getting out ahead of it. But I think in the long term, there is a spiritual connection with the aliens. There's a big spiritual side. For example, over 30% of alien abductees are near-death experiencers.
Mm-hmm.
So, that has to mean something, right? A lot of people, when they are abducted, they see the dead. They see,
right.
people that they either in their family or people that they have heard of, Einstein, Tesla, whoever, aboard these UFOs. Maybe that's a screen memory, maybe that's a projection of the aliens, but who knows? There could legitimately be a true spiritual connection between those two groups. So if they let us in on that after disclosure, we could have a transformation of what we do believe spiritually. Religion could change and merge.
But then, the second part of that question, though, is how is society going to respond to this? I mean, even economically, what do you guys think is going to happen? And if it may, for some reason, devastate our economy, do you think that may be one of the reasons that they're not releasing this information?
Well, it will be a paradigm shift. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I think it's a good question. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I think it's interesting because that paradigm shift is very interesting because it's got two polar opposites. On the one hand, everything you thought you knew is different. It's wrong. But on the other hand, it's always been that way. So does anything really change? Like what's actually just changing is your perception. The world is not really changing. The
ones of us that already have had experiences and know and have seen things, we're not going to be the ones that's, in fact, it's going to be the ones that never believed in anything.
Yes,
exactly.
I wonder too.
Yeah, that's going to have problems.
I'm sorry. What was that, Kim?
I said those are the ones that are going to have problems adjusting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think Kim, you had mentioned in way of religion. Well, I think a couple of mentions have been here in respect to extraterrestrials being already interwoven into religion. I wonder if this was revealed in the way that it might be, that people would start going back into religion with a completely different view and see if they could pull out any sort of interactions or influences that we may already suspect to be extraterrestrial intervention. I think that would be something we may see.
That would be interesting.
I think that's a good point. That's a really good point. I think that would happen. Yeah. I've done that myself.
Yeah, studying UFOs and aliens has actually made me more spiritual.
Yeah.
I was not spiritual at all before I started studying them, but because of these connections with near-death experiences and ghosts, the dead, I started researching that and became a believer in the spiritual.
Kim, you brought up something interesting, and that's that those of us who have had experiences. Jack, I don't know if you know this or not, but both Kim and myself are abductees.
Oh, wow.
And so we don't need proof. We don't need the government to say, yes, they exist, because we already know they do. But why is it that society needs, why do they need to have the government tell them it's real? Why do they need to confirm it with the government when people like us have been telling them all along?
Maybe the power of the authority, because maybe you get made fun of, maybe, or I get made fun of because of my beliefs. But if an authority like the government says it, then I could get something behind me. You know, that's perhaps one of the reasons why.
So unless the government says it's okay to believe in these things, then everybody else who claims to have seen these things or experienced abductions are just UFO nuts.
If you're a
parental role.
Yeah, I think
I'm
this
sorry?
thing is such a paradigm shifter that people need the legitimacy of the government to tell them it's real before they believe in that new paradigm. Because it will, change what you believe about the nature of the world. I think.
Well, that being said, too, that when somebody has a personal conviction of extraterrestrial presence or existence, if this was done at large, I think most people would look to the government because they're in that parental role. It's left over from our childhoods. For some reason, we've gone up with this, tier, but yet still had these authority figures again are in the way of a parental role. So if we all see something in the woods together and we don't know what it is, we might look at those in charge and say, well, what do you know about this? And what are we going to do about it going forward? Because they, like you guys are saying, they have the power to make those decisions.
Well, we do trust the government. I mean, we trust the government with like the military. There's certain government organizations that control our food, the USDA, to make sure it's safe. We do put a lot of trust and power into government already. So,
that's I have very mixed feelings about Stephen Greer, but I think that is one of the great things that he has done, as he has taken this out of the hands of the government. And I know that there was CE5 before Stephen Greer, but he was really the one that popularized it. And I have to give him a lot of credit for that. And because he has put this in the hands of the individuals, we can make contact with the visitors, or whatever you would like to call them, ourselves. We don't need the government to come out and say, hey, this is a legitimate subject and these beings are here. We can say, we can just go right to the beings and say, we would like to elevate our spirit or have a greater understanding or a communion with them, whatever it is. And, I'm actually thinking of learning how to do that.
Me too.
I'm a little hesitant.
Me too. Let's do it together, because I'm hesitant. I want to, but we're both in Texas, me and Jack. We actually only live like 3 hours away, I think. So.
Oh, wow.
We should start doing some CE5.
That's right.
Why not?
Let's do it.
Why not?
Yeah.
What about Ouija board? What do you think about a Ouija board? I've heard that you can use Ouija boards to communicate with aliens.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've actually done some research on that. That seems to be a legit thing. I don't know. I've heard negative experience with Ouija boards too. So
yeah.
We were just talking to a guy, Tom Baker, yesterday on our podcast, and we were talking about Ouija boards. And I asked him, I said, why do you think it is that Ouija boards take such a bad rap when it's just another divination device, just like tarot cards or dowsing rods or crystal balls or whatever? Why does Ouija board get such a bad rap on this?
That's a good question.
Maybe it's the baggage we bring with us. We have a negative association with Ouija boards, so we bring that to the board.
That very well could be. Yeah.
That's a good point.
That is that it's the form of like a gateway between.
Yeah, but couldn't you say the same thing about tarot cards?
You could say that about anything that's used in the field.
Yeah.
But I think that there's been more fear that's been used as far as the Ouija board itself, and it goes back to the Victorian times when they used to sit around with the seances and everything too, and whatnot.
Yeah.
I have a question. I was wondering, I haven't heard this question asked. Okay. So you asked a question, how would humans react to the paradigm shift that aliens are real? Now, I want to flip it a little bit. Let's say the paradigm shift happens in the future. It's accepted that aliens are real, whatever they are. Okay, my question is, how will the aliens act? Will they act differently? Will they be more apparent? Will they be less apparent? I'm curious to see what do you guys think would happen in that scenario?
I think.
You mean if we admit to it?
If everybody knew, everybody accepts it, we know that they're real, then how would the aliens change? Yeah.
I don't think they would much.
I don't think that. I don't think that they would consider us a threat. I think we would consider them a threat. And so human beings being what they are, and I hate to sound so cynical, but I mean, you know that movie District 9. I see something like that happening, you know.
Okay. Interesting.
There's such a big variety of them. You know, look at all the plants and stars around. There's
a lot,
just as many of those. You know, anything's possible, but it's how our government approaches them as well. And are they going to try to shoot them down? We don't know that.
Right.
That's the problem. How are they going to be? Are they going to be? Are we going to allow them to approach us freely? I just got on reading something or listening to a documentary on a place in Italy where they had like the Pleiadians down there. And they had no problem with them until they started. The Italians started fighting, and they weren't for that. That's when they left.
Well, I mean, like you guys saying here, I mean, there are different species, and I'm sure each of those species have their differing agendas. But by and large, I would feel that they've already contemplated what, some sort of contact with us would be like. And sorry about the rain. But, if they can see further than we can in certain respects of process, maybe not even something clairvoyant or psychic, just, the best outcome and how to achieve that. Again, they've already contemplated how this would work and perhaps how we might fit into it. I mean, God forbid we actually are some sort of slave race and still viewed that way today. And, even though they may be benevolent, we're still in servitude to some degree. I mean, we've heard, people say that Bigfoot has this sort of relationship with a particular race. But yeah, I mean, just to kind of, go over that same question there, I don't think that we'd see too much of a change in the way of how they reacted to us, because I believe most of this contact in the first place, they're kind of waiting for us to be ready to do it.
Yeah, that's my take on it, is that I believe that, we haven't had disclosure because they don't want us to have disclosure yet. I firmly believe there are elements of the government that are in contact with these beings and probably working with them. Area 51, whatever, the breakaway group, whatever you want to call them. And that we are on some sort of scheduled disclosure, that they are increasing their presence. They are coming out with this information. And that, maybe a few years down the line, we will get to some sort of, acceptance in the general public that these beings are real and that they are here. And that at that point, we will see what their next step in their plan is. I'm nervous and excited to find out what that is.
Interesting.
Yeah, definitely. But, I know that Michael's needs to get out of here in just a couple of minutes. And Ralph and I also need to get out of here tonight. So it's going to be a quick show tonight. But before we get out of here, does anybody else have any questions about this or comments?
The only thing I wanted to say is, oops, sorry.
Go ahead.
We've seen biblical paintings with not only the UFOs in them, but the beings that are inside the craft. So this isn't really something new altogether for this world.
Yeah.
Right.
Is it possible that back then that we actually had knowledge of the aliens and we've lost it since then?
I think so.
I think that's exactly
where the Vatican comes in at too. And I think the Vatican, they dumbed us down on a lot of things, and that in corporation with the government itself too. It's just a control.
Well, I've heard there are scrolls or records in the Vatican that are thousands of years old that prove the existence of alien contact.
Yes.
That they've always known about this, or
100%.
some element of the Vatican has always known.
Yeah, I believe it.
Well, this is definitely cyclical. I mean, in another show, we can go into the Yuga cycle and how things repeat every 26,000 years in the way of consciousness. I think that this particular sort of endeavor has been repeated many times throughout history, which is obviously much longer than we right now accept in modern definition. So, losing that consciousness, forgetting everything that is part of that oneness, the natural sense of yourself, gaining it back through experience of the senses. This is the physical experience, back to that totality wherein everything is connected, only to fall once again and have a completely different experience moving forward with that. But I mean, it's like a rubber band effect, it's really, really fascinating to see where we are right now. And I'm actually incredibly grateful to be alive and see all of this going down.
Right.
Seriously.
And I think we're very lucky. Yeah. So anyway, we are going to wrap it up. Folks watching, thank you very much for being here. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit the little bell so you get notified every time we do this thing. Also, don't forget to check out our links down in the description. If you like what we do here at Black Lotus, buy us a cup of coffee. And it's cheap. It's like a one-time donation of like $5, but every little dollar helps. And also, as I mentioned before, check out Jack Connor's Cosmic Road here on YouTube, and I've got a link for that too. I think you're really going to enjoy his channel. He just started out, and so show him some love and like and subscribe to his channel. And
do you have anything else you want to direct people to? Like, am I correct? Did you write some books, or do you have like a Facebook page or something?
Yeah, I do write books. If you want to go buy some epic fantasy and science fiction books, by all means, go on to Amazon or your favorite retailer and look for Jack Connor, ER.
Awesome.
Yeah, he's got a ton of books. So yeah, definitely check it out. So anyway, thank you very much, Jack, and Wild Trees, Michael, Kimberly, Ralph. As always, you guys are always a pleasure to have on. And until next time, keep thinking and question everything.